Welcome everyone to episode 11 of the Ashen Forge. It has been 2 weeks since our last episode, and thank you for joining us again. I, of course, am joined by Diggs and the legendary Neurotoxin.
How's it going, everybody?
How you guys doing?
Great, doing well.
Not a lot of new stuff since our last time here. They were supposed to have done a live stream. For some reason, I don't think they have, and I don't think we know why either. But we still, of course, always will have stuff to talk about. So I think, Diggs, you wanted to start us off, actually, the reason for the name we chose, Free For All, to start with. We're going to kind of jump around today, I think, depending on how much time we spend. But yeah, I think you had a good idea to start off with, so Free For All.
Yeah, just one of the topics that was in the forums the past couple of weeks was about the idea of having open world PvP in dungeons, so that would allow Group A to hang around maybe after they killed the boss once. When the next group comes in and the bosses respawn, Group A would be able to fight Group B and prevent them from killing the boss. Or maybe even the first time around, Group B comes in and Group A wants to, maybe both of them currently have the quest to kill the boss, but one group wants to have all of it to themselves. So Group A kills Group B, and you have the fun of having PvP going along while they're trying to kill the boss. Free for all PvP in the dungeons, they were saying. So I'm curious, especially because I think Neuro's, just because he's more into PvP than I am, for sure. I'm wondering what his view of that would be in contrast to mine, or in compared to mine.
This comes down to the idea that if the boss at the end isn't so tough that you don't need the help of everybody who can make it to the end just to have a chance at beating them, why even have a boss to begin with? Like for me, I always go back to games like Mega Man, for example. It's like if the level is going to kill you 10 times more than the boss is, once you get to the boss, if you know the pattern, it's just jump, shoot, jump, shoot, jump, shoot, and you win. It's not that difficult. It's getting there and, the chance that it'll randomly spawn a dude at just the right time that knocks you in a pit that you could have otherwise maybe waited on, maybe not. That sort of thing, or, other platformers that are even less forgiving. I think about that sort of thing. And if you make the dungeon more difficult than the final boss, then it doesn't really matter. Sure, I guess then it makes sense to have PvP, for that final kill loot, because it's just going to be whoever the tough dudes are that cleared the dungeon, whoever the wiener kids are that are following behind, trying to kill them from behind and snake the boss kill. And then, of course, the boss at the end. And if the boss isn't that difficult, then the only way to make it more dynamic is going to be having other people come in from behind and try to kill you while you try to kill the boss. So for me, it's that the boss itself should actually be like a reasonable, worthwhile boss. It should be something that's, meaningful to fight, and that you're not just going to walk in with a group of 8 people and just, win all willy-nilly like it's no big deal. It should be, if you can barely scrape through with 8 people, they have just one ability from everybody or whatever that you need to do just to be able to do all the boss's abilities and all the traps in the arena to be able to actually fight and win. Then if then you can add on more people and potentially make it a little easier, and you'll split the rewards a little bit differently. That's the other thing is how the rewards are actually going to be split by boss, how looting is going to actually work with the boss is really a major factor with this. If it's the sort of thing where everybody who contributes gets an equal or gets at least a baseline share, and then maybe people who did a little bit more, first hit, whatever, get slightly better chances at stuff. That's definitely going to encourage people to not gank each other from behind. The only time you're going to see stuff like that is if you've got large rival groups. I think of the sabotagery that goes on in EVE Online and that kind of goon equivalent or whatever coming through and rolling over some people that are just getting towards the end, just because that's what they do. Other than something like that, yeah, I would imagine if you've got that sort of a loot share sort of thing, you're just going to want everybody, you're going to help them. You're going to see these other guys in the back. They took on some side spawn that you guys were able to sneak by, and it's like, oh man, it's going to kill them. We're going to go back and help them. I think they'd rather encourage that over, that two-headed thing that we snuck by is about to eat them. I'm about to finish them off and, kill the two-headed thing that they've weakened. But, to each their own. I guess it really just comes down to what the value of the boss, what the difficulty of the boss actually is.
What are your thoughts, Phantom?
Well, I don't like PvP, so you probably so with what we know, I guess, so they've said, what, 40-man raids, right?
Well, I think that's the max.
So we say 20 to 40, so large amount of people. Corruption. What is it? What exactly is it? Is it going to lower armor? Is it going to lower hit points? Is it going to lower your attack ability?
All of that. So it lowers your skills. It lowers. It causes your armor to decay, and it also gives you negative XP or an XP debt that you have to accrue. That's 3 times. Well, that happens once you die, and then depending on how high your score is, the worse all of that gets.
So, assuming let's even just say 20. So you have 20 people coming into a dungeon, trying to take down a boss. You have another group of 20 people come in and they kill everyone. So that's going to be what, 20 corruptions, if they all contribute into killing. 20 people.
That's kind of crazy. I don't know. That's a good point.
And so then they
that's if they don't fight back and all that. So that's going to be in. So to me, it brought up a lot of questions that we don't necessarily have answers to. So somebody was saying that if you're in the dungeon, then since there's no tab target, your friendly fire is probably going to be hitting other people who are not in your group, and so automatically that's going to cause. And I'm like, I don't think that's the way.
Yeah, I mean, you have to flag still, right? I mean,
no, I mean, if somebody attacks you, then they flag, and then you would have to attack them back. But if you are doing AoEs in the area, then what they're saying is your AoEs might hit them.
I sure as hell hope that doesn't happen. You're going to have
I don't think
because you're going to have a bunch of idiots. You're going to have a bunch of people that just want to start a bunch of crap, and they're going to hit you, and then they're just going to dance around you for 15 minutes waiting for you to do something that does damage to them.
Right. It doesn't make sense in terms of just combat in general. I just can't see that because 2 groups are fighting near each other or fighting the same mob that you either have to join the raid or you risk getting corruption. That just doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, from what we know, the corruption sounds like it would be horrible. If your intent is actually to go kill the boss after them, right? Kill them, then kill the boss. You're going to be, assuming they don't attack back.
Yeah. So there's that. But one of the other things. So I talked to Jeffrey Bard, the lead designer at PAX, and I asked him about the demo that we had for PvE. We get to the end, and the boss is Saru's Hunger. And part of the idea there is that Saru is some kind of fire demon who has caused a volcano to erupt. And that's one of the reasons why we would want to stop him, is because it's causing destruction to the zone of interest there. And if we defeat Saru's Hunger, then the volcano will no longer be erupting. That's going to have an impact on the world. So I don't think it's going to be that Group A can go in and kill Saru's Hunger, and then Group B is going to come in afterward and also need to kill Saru's Hunger. I think Saru's Hunger is going to be dead and the volcano won't be active any longer. But also, that's the whole point. You have a goal. It's not just I have a quest and I'm going to get rewards for this quest, completing the quest. There's meaning behind the quest, and that's that you want to stop the volcano from erupting, or you want to there's an overall objective, and the people in that area are going to want to help meet that challenge. So I don't know why there would be a competition between the two groups going in. And then the third part of that, real quick before I let you go, is I hope that there's other things to do. We're getting experience for other things that we're doing throughout the dungeon besides just killing stuff and killing the boss. That our utility skills are giving us XP, and we have other tasks to do, so that even if you don't kill the boss, you have still gained XP and will be completing other tasks that go along with stuff that's happening in that dungeon.
And honestly, it has to be meaningful, because when systems like that go in, usually it's, you're getting 1,000 points of experience per kill and 1,200, and the boss is worth like 3,700. Wow. And when you complete the crafting task, like making a bandage and applying it to somebody, you get 5 experience. You
Right.
get 10. Yeah, thanks for the experience, guys.
Yeah.
And so if there's a world boss, a open world, open dungeon boss, it should have enough meaning to the world or change to the world that it's only available for 1 kill.
Yeah, that makes sense. Not only that, but potentially, if you don't defeat it, that it maybe gets stronger.
Yeah.
If you maim it, that it's weaker the next time you try to fight it, or you temporarily pause it, but you haven't actually finished it off, so it'll start volcanoing again. But all sorts of stuff. Always have the chance for bosses to reemerge. I don't know how they're going to do it with this, but I think of a lot of games like the Nemesis system, for example, in the Mordor games. You'll kill a dude, you'll straight cut his head off, and then you'll see him again, and he'll have his head on, and he'll know that you're going to try to behead him, so he'll have a defense against it. Yeah, I kind of like to see something like that with the bosses. If they're going to be recurring bosses, then have them learn from their previous experiences so they can be that much harder the next time.
Have them have different goals and maybe not be in exactly the same place, and it needs to impact the world. That's that's one of the big things that we're looking forward to, is that it's not static content.
Right.
So then you're not saying that you defeat them and they disappear forever, but maybe there's a long lockout, or they spawn somewhere else.
Or they spawn somewhere else. Let's say this lava dude, wants to make a volcano in the desert now because he gave up on doing it, where the actual town is at. But he'll pop up, and if he's in a remote area nobody goes to for a while, he'll be able to get more powerful, get more of a foothold in the area. By the time you actually find him, that group's going to wipe, because they're just going to find him randomly by chance and get melted. But then, bringing a group intentionally, it'll be that much more epic. The journey through the desert, the resources you have to prepare and everything just to be able to make the trip, all that sort of stuff. Like that, I think, is the sort of thing that they could definitely do if they want to keep bringing bosses back and making them more powerful, or even variants of the boss. It's like, oh, I'm the son of the lava demon or whatever, and now I'm coming to kill you or whatever, and some lineage or whatever. There's plenty of ways to do it.
What was your question, Phantom?
Well, I think that was it. Just more the idea behind
Well, yeah, so I think there's a few ways to do it such that it shouldn't always be the same. So there should be some bosses that you defeat and they're always defeated. There might be some bosses that are going to recur, but if they do, they move to a different place. They should not be exactly the same as they were before. And because players can respawn, there should be opportunities for NPCs and other bosses to be able to respond. I don't know how players are able to respond, but I think that's going to be part of the lore. And we've got gods involved, so we've got resurrection spells. So I would assume NPCs and mobs might have resurrection spells handy too.
So would you be okay with sort of the low level mobs coming up to them, that as long as that boss is still there, that those would keep responding? So like he keeps sending out, or she keeps sending out.
Yeah, for sure. So
you could have smaller groups sort of camping that maybe can't beat the boss, but can go spend some time in the dungeon and just sort of work around low level stuff.
So yeah, I think generic mobs, we shouldn't be too worried about whether they respawn or not. It's the named mobs that, those are the ones that are more likely to be bosses and more likely to have specific objectives and things like that. But another thing I was thinking of too is that because, everything that we do is supposed to impact the world, we're hoping to get away from static quests so that, everybody is completing the exact same quest. If Group A goes in and kills the boss or clears the dungeon, it shouldn't be that Group B comes along 20 minutes later and they're trying to kill the exact same boss.
Yeah, if that's the case, then I'm probably just going to stop playing, because that's totally not what I'm signing up for.
Exactly. But one thing that you could do is maybe once that first boss is completed, a rock slide comes in and knocks down, that area is cut off, and a new one kind of opens up if Group B uses their utilities and finds the path that they're on. So there could be even multiple objectives in that dungeon for all we know, depending on what kind of a dungeon it is. So I would hope that it's not so simple that Group A is waiting for Group B or Group C to come along and they know exactly what path they're going to take because they already have done it.
Because the way it's described, I would like that, where individual guilds could take 20, 30, 40 people and go to some of these kind of preliminary bosses. But I guess in my mind, if you're talking about a mob that's very rare, that is going to alter the landscape, that take more than a raid, that take a community to go kill them.
Yeah, I would imagine, something really of truly epic proportions. You wouldn't just walk straight up to it and start, bashing it at shins till it dies. I would imagine there would have to be all of its kind of like bastions of power that it's established. It's got, various little fortresses or other establishments that are guarded that are continuing to give it its power, its influence, causing whatever transformation to the zone to keep on going and keep intensifying. So for something like that, it would actually make sense to, if the plan is to take down this boss, try to get as many people as possible to take down all the different things. It could even be a window that they regenerate within a week if you don't destroy all of them and take out the boss. So it really does take everybody coming together to do it.
Right. I'm hoping that we get to a place where NPCs and mobs have raids of their own that are a match for player raids, so that it's not all focused on just, this one boss with, millions of hit points. It's really that it's raid versus rather than raid versus boss.
So would you like to see it start off, you give the concept of a volcano, so something erupts and guild A, B, and C all try to go, they can't beat it, and each time they can't beat it, it starts moving closer to the node and within the node. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. Yep.
So the other thing, and this is a subject that always came up with the Storybricks presentation for EverQuest Next, the idea of joining the actual bad guys. So there was it starts off as a two-way factional struggle, which if it goes on long enough in the wrong way, a third inherently evil, no redemption faction pops up, and then everybody has to deal with it. I figure for something like this, I want to be able to go and pledge my loyalty to this fire boss or whatever. And so long as it's around, I'm empowered. I'm its agent. I'm supposed to be helping, gather the resources or whatever to, make the things happen, or, crack the whip over the little demon minions in places where he doesn't have as much influence, or whatever it might be. That's the sort of thing I think would also be great, is, playing the villain. Then it actually makes sense if there's a PvP raid involved with the boss. You guys chose to be the bad guys, and so there's 20 of you just waiting when the 150 strong army with war machines and stuff come along. You're right there waiting to fight back.
So have they said whether those sorts of attacks on a node, sort of NPC attacks on a node, can those de-level a node?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That would make sense.
Because then, okay, so then my question becomes, in that scenario, Neuro, that would be kind of interesting, right? If you're a rival node and you're just going in and picking off one by one their members while they're trying to get rid of this, but you're not actually declaring a siege. So how do they get around that?
Well, you're not declaring a siege. You can't actually attack in the name of this boss unless they're actually going to send a siege force after the town. If they're going to do that, if they're big enough and powerful enough that they're going to do that, hell yeah, it's going to be a siege, and you can totally get a piece of that.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that it would be kind of the same thing. Even if an NPC group could de-level a node, then it would still take a while before that could happen again. It's not something that could happen all the time.
Here's an idea that I could see them doing is, if you do actually start showing loyalty for a boss and completing tasks for them, that's a way to gain the boss token thing, so you can do the raids on towns. Yeah. So the more you do that, the more you can be the bad guy and try to chip away at the areas, the stuff in the area nearby.
Yeah, but some of that stuff is timed, so it's not like you can just do that day after day, week after week.
Right, of course.
So maybe like a similar timer that is sort of counting down, 2 weeks, and this thing's going to come to your town. 1 week, 3 days. Yeah. It would be kind of neat if you could, because with caravans, you can, when a caravan comes through wherever you're at, you'll get a pop-up box, right? Either protect or attack. So that would be interesting if you're not a citizen of that node, and you're traveling through, and they're about to, an NPC is about to overrun that node, whether you can, again, be prompted to sign up and join the NPC group. And, of course, at that point, you'd be open season hunting for the others that are trying to defend. Yeah. But sort of, or do you sign up to do, you just do nothing, or do you protect the node? Because then you could bring in, your allies, and then the 2 nodes over, they could come in and help you defend yours, or that would be interesting.
My favorite would also be if there's an alternative third that you can sign up with the private industry. There's a bank that a guild owns that's spread without all the cities in the area. They're just interested in getting their stuff and getting the hell out of there. You go and sign up with them to basically hold a spear and follow their carts out of town.
I did ask a few questions at PAX about, because we're normally trying to clear corruption from the area, but I was asking if it would be possible to help spread corruption, and Stephen said, I don't know if I want to talk about that.
Which
right
means,
now.
yeah, I think so.
And I asked Jeffrey Bard, and he said, or one of the designers. I asked one of the designers, and they said, yeah, there's probably going to be a way to do that. I would think so. So I think it was actually Peter who told me that. I think both Jeffrey and Stephen were like, it's too early to talk. It's too early to reveal was more the message. But Peter seemed to be like, well, yeah, there would be ways to do that. So I'm curious about how we can aid corrupted people and
I was gonna say, imagine a metropolis and you want to siege it, but helping some sort of NPC faction over time. Imagine a siege of a metropolis. You're bringing all of your folks, but then behind you is this big lava monster that you're somehow aligned with as well.
Yeah, I wonder what the mechanics for that would be. It might have to be during a monster coin event, because at that point, the monsters do have specific objectives that they're trying to hit in the node, and I'm not sure that outside of monster coin events or sieges that will be the case. We do know that, like, when we unleash the dragon might be able to attack the city and, you know, do some damage, which I would assume up to de-leveling. But again, that might be a big enough event that it's a monster coin event. So, you know, that might even be players playing that monster. But there's some way for it to happen.
So all of a sudden, a lot of different ways you can do this. I still don't like the idea of free-for-all, though.
Well, I don't think it should necessarily be I don't think it's going to be free-for-all, because what they mean by free-for-all is not having corruption like you don't have it during sieges, and not having to worry about or caravans. They're wanting to have the corruption system suspended in dungeons, and I just don't think they're going to do that. But I think it shouldn't be in a way that, well, I mean, I don't think that should be the general case, is what I mean. I don't know if I necessarily mind occasionally, because I think the idea of Steven's vision of battlegrounds is that there can be zones that pop up similar to caravan runs where, you know, that zone becomes a free-for-all for a period of time. So I wouldn't mind, you know, dungeons occasionally being like that, but I wouldn't want them to be generally like that, or that to be the, you know, the general case.
I mean, I also just worry that, again, always falling back to the argument that you want as many players playing this game as possible, that you have to somehow protect against the PvE players, because I do still believe they outnumber the PvP players. And you're going to want all of them involved. So if you only have a system where they can always be attacked and you're sort of pigeonholing them into what they can do, you're going to end up with a game that's not going to function very well.
I could see them making rules like you can't declare aggression and PvP towards somebody, or open flag PvP or whatever, while you're within a dungeon, and that you would have to go all the way out, like clear outside, to be able to switch your flag. That would make sense, that, you know, if you're coming in with the intent to attack people, they can see that clearly in the distance. But, you know, it's still the idea that, you know, you're attacking enemies and they're attacking you, and you're going to get flagged if you fight back or accidentally AoE. And, like, what are you supposed to do? Run in a corner and just start shouting, don't hurt us, everybody? Or, you know, to get signs and say, we shall overcome. Like, it's not, you don't have a good situation then. It's not going to work, you know. So they gotta factor for that one way or another.
I feel like,
and I think it's. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel like PvP encounters should have just as much meaning behind them and the overall world as PvE encounters. So I guess what I mean by that is if a group feels like they want to come in and kill another group as they're encountering a boss, there should be a reward to that, or a reason to that. And the way the system looks is they would just basically get corruption, probably not be able to kill that boss. So then what's the point?
Yeah.
Other than the grief, basically.
Yeah. I think one of the scenarios I came up with was maybe you clear the dungeon the first time, and there was Sorrow's Hunger there, and, you know, caused the volcano to erupt, but you've killed Sorrow's Hunger. The volcano is died down. So maybe the next thing to do in that dungeon is to dedicate altars within various places throughout the dungeon to your god. And after you do, I don't know, 10 or 15 or whatever, then a temple for the god will appear within the dungeon, and then that will spawn NPCs related to that god. And then you might have different religions fighting openly in that dungeon at that point, trying to get their altars established and prevent other groups from getting their altars established. And then, once the temple is finally erected, then that ends the free-for-all part. And again, a whole different system of stuff comes through. So I could see, hopefully, I don't know if the devs could do that, but, make it so that the dungeon keeps changing, and maybe one of those times it ends up being a free-for-all situation versus a more limited PvP that has the corruption system in but I don't know if they can make one dungeon that dynamic.
It would be interesting.
It's kind of interesting. And, you bring up something, because there are gods and divine what-fors, I could see them making it that for a boss or something of this level of magnitude, when it's finally defeated, if you've contributed in some way, you're not necessarily looking for physical loot off the boss. It's that you're going to be given some sort of reward from your god as some, recompense for helping right this wrong and ending this corruption in the world. So, if they want to do something like that, then it would definitely be the easy way out and the quick solution for trying to get people to work together as much as possible, rather than trying to fight for first hit, first hit, and then being the last one standing or whatever afterward, or to finally claim the kill, because it's kind of boring and old, and leave that for like Pantheon or something. I guess I think that's more the experience they're probably going for.
Right. Maybe our different social groups have social organizations is what they call them. Maybe the different social organizations have different objectives within the same dungeon for the same overall quest. So the religious people want this, the Thieves Guild wants that, Scholars Academy wants this, and they may not all entail killing the boss, but there's other tasks that you have to do in that dungeon, and that's what your main objective is to do this part, which also helps other people within the dungeon perhaps. But hopefully it's not always going to be just everybody kill the boss.
Yeah, I get you. And it might not even be everybody kill the boss. It might be, we need, all of the people of these two classes over here doing this thing, just so that we can even, go in and, we have to fight this boss, but we also have to solve this really complex puzzle while we're doing it.
Right.
And the answer's not obvious, and it's different on every server.
Right. Disarm the trap, or unlock an arcane lock, or, all kinds of stuff. Good.
Or there's 30 weighted plates that you have to have people standing on in a very specific way, and that deactivates the boss's force field or something.
Right.
I wouldn't mind seeing some combination of cleric or priest that they have some very limited skill of removing corruption, but there's some complex, I don't know, whether it's a components or it's something they can only do once, every week, or something that then drains them of their power. That would be interesting. Yeah.
They have that with Purge, is one of the utility skills of the cleric. So there is some of that already in. We just have to see how diverse that is and powerful and all that stuff. So we'll see.
Have they even yet talked about, and I haven't been in the forums as much this week. There was something about, and this might have been what spawned this, was open world dungeons and camps. Have they mentioned anything about tagging a target, like first hit gets
No, and I forgot to ask that specifically. I don't think that can be the case, because I did talk to Jeffrey about when you're defending the town, I could be solo and helping to defend the town while there's a group, and I'm still going to get rewarded. I don't have to be a part of the group in order.
It's a Warhammer Online kind of public quest system.
I think so, yeah.
Which is really how it should be.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Free for all. Hate it.
Yeah.
Admittedly, though, it could produce some very interesting storylines if what you're looking for is intrigue and story.
Hopefully, I guess I fall into, I would want it to be limited, so not absolute in dungeons.
It would be very cool to be watching a video of a raid mass that was somehow invisible through some special talent, watching another one that they absolutely hate, or a rival. It'd be very cool to watch a YouTube video of them taking down this guild as they were on the precipice of this final battle. However, I would probably rage quit the game if I was the group and about to win that then gets ganked from behind.
Well, but again, that's my thing, is it depends on what the objectives are. So my hope would be that there are so many tasks and objectives within the dungeon that even if I don't kill the boss, I've still completed a bunch of other stuff.
Because then you can have tactics, right? So we talk about corruption. Well, maybe the first corruption isn't so bad. So, maybe you wait till they're like 15%. Then you engage them, you take them down, and then you don't have as much of a boss fight to fight, so you don't have to worry about corruption, or you have this cleric in the back that then clears all. So it becomes, I guess, more interesting. I just would hate to be the one that gets all hard work taken away.
I could also see them adding a layer of corruption where if you attack people midway through them fighting something, kill them, and then kill the thing and loot it, you get additional corruption based on how powerful the thing is that they were fighting. So if you do take down people that are killing a boss and then kill it, the corruption you're going to walk away with is so tremendous that you're going to kind of be screwed for a while.
Yeah, and I should, because corruption gets confusing. So no, I don't think they will have a cleric ability to kill PvP corruption. That's just going to be the standard. You have to die in order to clear your corruption. So
that's too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see at least a skill where somebody could sacrifice themselves. You sort of like a necromancer sort of class that they sacrifice themselves and they lose something for the greater good of the group.
Yeah, they don't want it to be too easy for people to suicide and be, I'm done. So we'll see. We'll have to play around with it for us to know how it feels.
So you were also talking about something else that they're starting to try about they're on Discord and Twitch too. The community group, trying to start some community events.
Oh, so the community moderators, they have a couple of events. So they're trying to have events. One that they had was it was similar to American Idol. So people could do video. What was it, like Ashen's Got Talent, I think was the name of it. So individuals could do YouTube vids showing off their talent, and then people voted to see, who won. I don't know who won or if it's still going on. That was about a month ago or 6 weeks ago. They currently have one where and this is going to last lasting for a couple of, I think maybe it lasts until beta 1. But it's for you to make a video of yourself talking about what attracted you to Ashes and what you're hoping to be able to do within Ashes. And people are doing that in very creative ways. Somebody did it through a puppet or something like that. And so they're hoping to come up with events that the community can participate in even before the game starts. I'm sure that they will come up with other things once the game starts. But then somebody suggested a kind of event they would like to see once the game does start is a Metropolis run where maybe once a month you show how well you know the layout of the Metropolis by running a race throughout the city, and whoever gets to the finish line first. I think that's kind of wonky because if you have class powers like the mage is blinking or teleporting, or the rogue is climbing over buildings or climbing over obstacles, I think that makes it more difficult. But if you do it on mounts, you can't use your class abilities on mounts, so that might be a way to level that playing field. If you do, all horses do this race, and then I don't know, all lions do this race, whatever. You might be able to level that playing field and still show your prowess for geography within the Metropolis.
I mean, yeah, if they have the mechanics for it, if they decide to be silly and put it in anyway. The three-legged race, you get out the burlap sacks, pair up. You familiar with this one?
Yeah.
So in high school, I was a sprinter. My best friend ran cross country, so we were both like on track. We were at the top of our different fields, and we had a three-legged race. And I was like, we're both fast, we're gonna win. And of course, it was a fiasco. And I was like, no, but we're both like fast runners. We should have been. And he was like, but you sprint, and I can't sprint as fast as you can. The whole point is you have to learn how to meet yourself in the middle. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about different styles of running and all that stuff. Like, yeah, that's the whole point. So yes, I'm very familiar. Taught me a big lesson that I never forget. And that would be really cool to see how they could pull that off. I think it's still problematic with powers, but that would be a cool mechanic.
Well, you wouldn't be able to have powers. You got your leg tied to some other person's leg, or sack that your legs are in, or whatever.
You say that, and I think more back to EverQuest and getting drunk and the races.
Yeah, there you go.
Up on the trees and try not to fall. If they added something fun like that, okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
who cares if you know how to get from point A to B?
It's just a fun thing to do. Running a maze or whatever. I don't know.
I don't know. For me, it'd be
there should be something extra to it. Is I guess what I'm saying.
The roof run, having a track that's like enough connected roofs that you'd be able to get across from point A to point B, and then you time people getting across, or everybody tries to go across at the same time. You see who actually makes it. That's another thing. Characters have collision. Yeah.
I didn't even try that.
I have to imagine they're going to have collision so you can actually block areas.
I think it's semi. They don't have block in yet, so I don't know. But that would make it a lot more interesting if it's a race over a more confined area where you've got a lot of bodies in the way. Only so many hands can actually grab that ledge for the ledge grab, or not. Maybe it's one of those things that ignores it. Who knows?
So I'd be more interested in like a unique item that there's only one of, go place it somewhere out in the world, and let them go hunt it and bring it back, or scavenger hunt, or like put it in that volcano somewhere deep and see who can get it first and get it back. So then, do you go in with a group? Do you try to stealth your way in and try to sneak in and sneak out with it? That'd be kind of interesting.
I mean, we had the reason why I wanted to ask you guys is because we had even with Landmark, we had all kinds of events, community events that we had. We had the New Year's party with Dave Georgeson. We had the swap meets. And what I love is the after parties, someone does a live stream, or especially when the devs do a live stream and then everybody shows up at some location and hangs out with each other. We used to have Sog would participate in the tutorials. What was the name of his of that group?
Oh, I know.
I don't remember.
Something Spring, Day Spring Academy or something
Lay
like
Spring.
that.
Lay Spring.
Yeah, the Lay
His
Spring
group
Academy.
was the Colony, I think.
Yeah. So they had tutorials. So that would be when you were talking about crafting, I thought you were going to say something like that, like, even crafting tutorials.
Well, I mean, that would be interesting, but I guess to me, Landmark just had different goals. Like everyone kind of worked together. I mean, you could still do that in Ashes. It wouldn't be a huge community because you'd inherently have people fighting against other people. But you could you could do that.
Are there events that you participate in non-Landmark MMORPGs, Nero?
Non-Landmark. I mean, not really much in the MMO space because I haven't really been playing any MMOs, but most of the other games that I play, they're all free to play with suggested microtransactions, heavily events-driven games. Or I guess Fortnite has a buy-in, but I play like Fortnite, I play Warframe. Warframe just came out with like massive update yesterday, and I have to say, not just what they actually added to the game, but the fact that it was stable when it came up and you could actually play it day one with everybody hammering on the servers. Like, kudos. That's one of the smoothest technical updates I've ever seen of any like game of that scale ever.
But they don't really have. But Fortnite doesn't really have community events.
No, well, community events. That's true. I guess they are really driving the event. Community event. I can't actually think of any it's all because now that I think about it, all the community events that go on for all the games that I play, they're all the company driven stuff. They're not the fan driven stuff.
Okay.
So
the other thing that Landmark had was the that I know you participated in was the PvP battles. Like the first 2 weeks when it wasn't, I can't say it was fun even then. It was kind of interesting.
It was
to
funny.
Test. It was interesting to test.
Well, unfortunately, it never got beyond the test phase by the end of
right.
But,
I'm just saying those first 2 weeks when you guys were learning and figuring out, that strategy's not going to work. No, that's crap. We shouldn't even be able to do this. It was interesting. I don't know if the combat was all that good, but
yeah. I mean, other than like, I guess the event that everybody does is participating with Extra Life, but that's that one's kind of a given. Everyone's going to do that because it's the thing to do.
And I know, I don't know if people would disagree with this or not. I actually am a fan of somehow kind of representing real world holidays into community events. I know that's not necessarily fan driven, but somehow wrapping that into the lore of the world, sort of like World of Warcraft. I do like those sorts of things.
As a community event or as an actual dev-sponsored event?
I mean, that's why I said it's not necessarily a fan-created thing, but at least having some sort of break. Now I don't know, how detailed do you want to get? They're going to have different regions, different, backgrounds. Does everyone, celebrate the same holiday, or do they not? I don't know how they would do that, but
I don't know. Like most of the time, it's what MMOs usually end up having is the Western Christian holidays, the consumer holidays, and sometimes national holidays for either that country or one that they do a lot of stuff with, like a Canadian company having something for the 4th of July for US, for example. So that's usually what ends up boiling down to, and I think that's what usually kind of bores me about it, is because it's not just those are the timings of the holidays and the holiday events, but also those are the themes and motifs. And as if those are the only holidays that are around, it gets really boring.
We don't know anything of lore yet, but I mean, you do have enough holidays that if they're going to regionalize, marketplace and trade, I'm assuming they're going to regionalize the lore in the background and the I don't know, the religions. And so, I mean, you could have, somewhere up in the north does a Christmas sort of theme, but somewhere else does more pagan sort of holidays that actually correlate with real world events.
So, and you just sparked a new idea in my head, but so we have seasons. So one, I hope that within the lore we have some and I think it's once a week that the seasons change. So however often those seasons change, I hope we have
once a week.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's what it is. It might be once a month, but I think it's once a week.
I feel like it's once a month.
Okay, yeah, I haven't looked it up, so
could be wrong.
But so my hope would be that, however, whenever the seasons change, Ash's lore has rituals around that, celebrations around that. And then there are religions. So hopefully the religions have their own celebrations as well. Or each god has a celebration of their own that falls somewhere in there. And then what was the thing I was just thinking about? Oh, because so like I think it's the Vec are based on Mayan culture. The Renkai are based on Asian culture. We've got the one dwarves that are Polynesian, I think. So hopefully those different cultures will have celebrations, and maybe they could be similar to celebrations the cultures they represent might have. But yeah, I don't know if I was talking about this with Revival or with EQ2. I think more with Revival. Do we have to have 4th of July as one of the celebrations? Why does it have to be 4th of July? Why can't it be
that's where I started off. I know not everyone agrees with the idea of taking world holidays.
No, I like Christmas, okay, but can we have Ramadan as well? Can we have, like, it doesn't have to just be Christmas. We've got other cultures within the world whose New Year's doesn't happen on the same day that our New Year's does. So all of that.
I think if they have enough developers to do it, they're in a perfect position to bring everything in and spread it out by region, and then actually give people a reason to travel too.
Well,
they could actually
do
the whole Hanukkah thing, but actually have it be meaningful.
Yeah,
you have bad guys take over some major temple. You have to take it back, and then the resources to restore it are scarce or whatever. Something like that. So then you come back every year and you remember that battle that had happened. Right. So if they do something like that, that's sweet. That's awesome.
Yep.
I mean,
but let's see them do it.
That sounds like it'd be a lot of time to create everything for that. But I mean,
if they've got a dynamic raid system, it's just a matter of having the art assets and giving a designer, 60, 80 hours to throw it together, or a team of them, one sprint or something.
Yeah.
But I do think that could get interesting. And then, like I said, it promotes a reason to travel. I mean, you could have a place, hey, I was reading about this really interesting holiday they do over here, but it's half a world away. And, it could be very interesting.
And I mean, especially if you tie that to a god, then that just works itself out. Whenever that event gets triggered with that god, that's when the celebration starts a year after that.
Crafters could have a reason. Maybe there is a ceremony at somewhere way away, and there's some sort of product that comes out of that. You can only get it there, so you travel there, you bring it back to where you're at, and it's worth something very valuable. I mean, just you could tie it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
No.
So hopefully. But so the other thing for me before we leave this topic is, especially Landmark was a good example of this. Again, when we would have events, especially after dev live streams. One of the reasons why I like having some form of fast travel is because I want to be able to get to where that after party is. We used to do that with in Wizard 101. I think that was back in 2010. I was playing that game. We would have a weekly podcast there. We would do tutorials, and then after the podcast, we would pick a place to meet up within the game and hang out for 15 or 20 minutes, or half hour, or whatever time we had. But we could teleport there, and then teleport back to wherever we were. And the same thing in Landmark. We could teleport wherever we needed to be and hang out with the devs, hang out with each other for 20 minutes or a half hour, and then get back to where we want to be. And for me, that brings the community together. So I like to have that ability so that I'm not traveling for half an hour or an hour to get someplace, and then I'm only going to be there 15 minutes because the devs have left already because they don't have time to hang out for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So that's usually my when people were arguing against fast travel for EQ Next. That's my argument. Is I want to have I want to be able to travel fast enough to get to an after party and still hang out with devs. Have plenty of time to hang out with the devs.
As fun an idea as that is, I don't think it's worth having fast travel to break the entire rest of the game and its systems just to be able to hang out like that. I feel like it'd be a lot better if they had an event space that you could teleport to. You can't fight there, you can't trade there, you can freely communicate, and you can dance. Maybe there's furniture you can interact with. You can't take anything. You can't leave. Maybe you can leave stuff. Maybe you can add decor or something. Depending if somebody owns it or something. I could see doing something like that just as like an instanced meeting space sort of thing that you just use for, party events like this, or if you have some like weekly, some sort of religious based guild or whatever, that you have your Sunday meeting or whatever, and 5 minutes this and that before going off to your adventures, whatever it might be. I think that actually is kind of a fun system. It's something that I've thought about in the past, but hadn't really thought about for quite a while. But it definitely, for what you're looking for, it fills that niche. It fills that gap. Or, the other one is just a private place to have 8 people communicate without opening a whisper chat channel and inviting 7 other people to it. So that's just you're gonna end up having a giant chat bar or whatever with all the different tabs, all the different conversations and so on. And nobody wants that.
Yeah, and I think that does. I think I had something like that in mind too when I was thinking about it a couple weeks ago. Is if you had even just, I don't know, 5-6 spaces like that around the map, and you teleport there during the time of whatever event for however long, and then disable it after that. That could work too. But yeah, just a space, a building or whatever that you could teleport to, and that's all you do there is just hang
Guild
out.
Hall.
Yeah.
Sort of an instant
The
guild hall.
but Guild Hall, I mean,
And then you return
couldn't be
to
a
wherever you
Guild
were.
Hall though, because it couldn't be tied to guilds, and there's advantages if it was a Guild Hall and you do that and all that.
A node
But-
hall.
But yeah, some kind of hall, party hall. Yeah, that would satisfy that. And the devs could designate which one they were going to do if they're going to appear after a live stream. Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, because that's pretty much the only time that I want to use it.
Right.
So.
That's fair. All right.
Yeah, we are at the end of our time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a lot of talking for not a lot of news this last month. Hopefully, I'm hoping that is just them going through the rush of trying to get to this Alpha Zero.
Yeah.
And nothing else.
Well, yeah, my one complaint that I will do for this particular episode is that they did say back in May, June, that Nodes Part 3 was going to be out soon.
I was just thinking that.
And it seems like that's not too difficult to do.
Well, maybe they don't know yet what they want to do.
That could be.
I think they know.
Maybe they're not sure if they can do what they want to do.
Okay. They seem to know that they had enough content for 4 videos. Nodes Part 3 and Nodes Part 4. It was supposed to be a 4-part series about nodes, but
we have no idea what's going on behind closed doors, what's going on internally, if there anything that's going on that's otherwise affecting their ability to do development, if they're in some phase other than full development right now. There's really no way of telling. Or alternatively, yes, they are so in full development that even the community managers and everybody are helping to QA and helping to fill in like quest dialogue or something, like whatever it may be. I have to imagine they're busy with whatever it is, and it's something that you don't just do in a week or two. They've got something long term that they've been working on here, and I'm just hoping that it's gonna resolve with a massive news and feature drop and a date or a deadline of something concrete or specific or worthwhile, or details on something that we've been waiting for, that we're just given the full system, the full details. If they just end up saying, oh yeah, we're still here, we're still developing, then I start to worry a little.
1 month since their last tweet.
Mm-hmm. Are they going to be at TwitchCon?
I don't think they've said.
I don't think it was Twitch.
I think they
are planning to go to different.
Yeah, they had mentioned
some other
going to some, but I don't know about Twitch.
I don't think. Yeah.
So that's the other thing, is anytime that you've got shows that you're going to do a demo where you didn't just use the demo from the previous show, basically all the work that you were going to be doing, you have to kind of put on hold and just be doing the stuff specific to that demo, making sure it's polished. Likewise, once you're done doing a demo, a lot of times you got to spend an entire sprint, an entire 2 weeks or however long, just unscrewing up everything that you just screwed up, trying to hack and quick fix and put end caps on things that are supposed to be more or less unlimited, just for the scope of getting this demo together. You had to break the game to make the demo, and now you have to unbreak the demo stuff and get the game working again. It happens all the time, and it takes time.
But my point is that the Nodes Part 3 should be on the sprint.
Oh yeah,
and
it should.
If they're pushing back this, that doesn't really take game assets to pull off. What else are they pushing back? Thankfully, even though they talk about being transparent, they haven't given us a blueprint, so we have no clue what their schedule looks like. But it's commonplace. Stuff gets pushed back, right? Mm-hmm. But this is an easy thing to accomplish compared to actually designing the game.
They're falling into the same. See, this is why I actually wish when a new game is announced, they say they're not going to be transparent, because they're falling into the same trap as everything else we've seen. Landmark started off great, community started getting worried, people start talking. Chronicles of Valyria, same way. They had to actually come into their Discord and write a big thing, apologizing for how they hadn't been communicating as much, and so it's a lot of catch up. And I mean, even Star Citizen, it's probably been a while now, but I remember they started getting a lot of pushback from their extremely dedicated people who spend thousands of dollars not even knowing if this game's going to be there.
Yeah, I bought thousands of dollars of ships, but
Yeah, and they-
when can I actually fly from point A to point B and like actually have it be a game was the biggest complaint.
'Cause they the same thing. They had to start putting out blueprints because people were starting to complain. I just wish I know they think, oh, we're going to be transparent. We're going to be, you'll love it. You're going to know what we're doing. And it's so hard to do that long term. I just wish they wouldn't say that, because now you're going to get people complaining and, well, what's going on? It's been a month since you've tweeted anything. You're missing this blog post. We were supposed to do a video. Now you didn't do a video. So then the mind starts going, okay, what's going wrong? Why are we not hearing from you?
Right. If they had never mentioned doing a Nodes Part 3 soon, I would have been content with Nodes Part 2. I wouldn't be thinking about anything. But we'll see. Game development is hard, especially for MMORPGs. So,
because we as us just being sort of this talk show host, not having anything to talk about. Imagine them as developers. Well, yeah, we worked on some code. Cool. It's just so hard to maintain, especially after you go through a Kickstarter that you released all this information, and then you have this demo and all this information. You can only do so much at a time.
Right.
I just wish more people would say, you know what, we're gonna try to explain things to you as we go. Don't expect too much from us, and just say that up front.
Yeah. Yep.
So, anyways, well, we are about 10 minutes over, so we will be back in 2 weeks. Be right.
Hopefully, talking about the latest news.
I hope so. Either that, or maybe we can play dress up and celebrate Halloween together. So, anyways, thanks for joining.
Yep.
See you later.
See you later.
Bye.